7 years into the new millennium, the most powerful nation on Earth wrestles with its problems. Nearly 300 million Americans tax an aging infrastructure. 250 million vehicles of every description elbow for space on our highways. Environmental concerns of the 1990s have become 21st century priorities.
And yet, incredibly, reliance on the automobile throughout most of North America not only continues, it accelerates, except where logic prevailed. On the Florida Peninsula, the Florida Overland Express sprints along the eastern edge of a rejuvenated Everglades. The Fox, the nation's first high-speed rail system. Barely 30 minutes out of its modern passenger terminal within the Miami Airport complex, the Fox will arrive in Orlando an hour from now. Less than 60 minutes from its Orlando departure, the Fox will breathe the still morning air of Tampa. Among the 300 passengers, business travelers, families, students, and tourists, some are just along for the ride. For them, the Florida Overland Express is the destination. The history of Florida's high-speed rail system has been well documented. Before the turn of the century, in the 1990s, the Florida Department of Transportation presented an innovative plan to make the system a reality. The idea was to create a long-term partnership with the private sector to establish an easily expandable, practical, maintainable, appreciating asset, a safe, comfortable system to immediately connect Miami, Orlando, and Tampa, and soon after, Jacksonville. Eventually, other business, tourism, and population centers would be included. It was to be an efficient system, publicly owned, privately built, and operated. The private sector partner was chosen. It was the Florida Overland Express Group, a consortium comprised of 4 of the most respected names in transportation, construction, program management, and infrastructure. There was Fluor Daniel, the largest publicly traded engineering and construction company in the United States, with unquestioned worldwide management and maintenance capabilities. They were responsible for Miami's Metromover and more than 290 other significant projects throughout the state of Florida. There was Odebrecht Contractors of Florida, civil construction experts in 21 countries on 4 continents, responsible for the expansion of Dade County's mammoth Golden Glades interchange, one of the largest and most complex interchanges in the world. There was Bombardier, a world-class manufacturer of transportation equipment and the largest provider of rail cars in North America. It was Bombardier that manufactured and supplied rail cars for the newly expanded Tri-Rail and the Tampa Airport People Mover. And there was Jacques Alstom, an internationally acknowledged leader in the field of energy and rail transport, developer of proven TGV train technology, utilized in creating the fastest, safest passenger trains in the world. That was the team in 1995. It is still the team in 2007. And just look at what the Florida Overland Express Group has created and maintained.
Dad, the shuttle's here!
Things are different in the year 2007. There's a greater awareness of how costly it is to maintain a highway system. We still drive cars, of course. We drive them less. Intermodal connections, like the Fox's own door-to-door shuttle service, have made the automobile just another travel option. Other passengers arrive in clean, modern train stations via newly expanded bus and light rail systems.
How's Dylan?
Great, he says hello. So listen, as soon as we get on the train, we're going to fire off some faxes, and then we'll have some breakfast.
How about breakfast first? I fax better on a full stomach.
Okay, we'll make the dining car our first stop.
Oh, let's go.
Great.
Almost there, guys. All right, here we go. Almost on the thing. All right, let's get going. Woo!
Bags are checked curbside and are automatically routed with you to your final destination.
Thanks. We're
And that's
looking forward.
particularly convenient if you're making an airline connection.
Orlando, sir.
Yep, that's right. Orlando.
Check it straight through for you.
Thank you.
Wow. Awesome. Is Grandpa going to be on the train?
No, honey, but he's waiting for us in Orlando.
Is he going to take me fishing?
I think he just might do that.
Now arriving on track 1, the Florida Overland Express from Tampa and Orlando. Arribando en el carril número 1, el Florida Overland Express de Tampa y Orlando.
Yeah, business tonight.
You know, I don't know a soul in Miami. I'd just like to ride this thing.
Hey, man, don't even worry about it until we're north of West Palm Beach.
Wait a minute. That means that I have less than an hour to try to figure out how to tell my parents about those grades?
Well, if you had a 4.0 like me, you'd have nothing to worry about.
That's right.
Get out of here. Nobody invited you.
Passengers for Orlando and Tampa, please prepare for boarding on track
Mom, the train's here. Come on.
Come on, guys.
受かったから行こう。
切符買うのにどこまで行ったの？
あ、一番近いATM まで。
やるのがすごい。
Let's get going. Yeah, in a little while we're going to get a train's eye view of the Everglades. Come on, sweetie, let's go this way. Let's go, all right.
Watch out for the alligator.
Oh, I think the alligator's better. Watch out for you. And come on over here and sit on this side. Where are you? Get over here now.
Hey, why don't you color in right over there?
That looks great.
Wow, I got 1,500 points.
All right, good boy.
Done.
Is Mickey on the train?
No, honey, but he's waiting for us in Orlando.
Mike, don't wander too far, okay?
Okay, Dad. Excuse me.
But I think I can figure this out.
Hi, I'm Mike. What are you doing?
Hi, Mike. It's a little hard to explain.
Looks like a computer modem to me.
Think you're pretty smart, little man, huh?
Looks like you're trying to download a GIF file from the server through an ISDN fiber optic link.
Like I said, I'm downloading this GIF file.
In the past 12 months alone, more than 5 million passengers have enjoyed the speed, convenience, comfort, and safety of the Florida Overland Express. Electric power moves the Florida Overland Express quickly and efficiently along its new state-of-the-art network of tracks. Train and track noise is kept to a minimum. There's no 24-hour highway roar, just the occasional whoosh as the train glides by. The right-of-way uses just a fraction of the land required for new highways. Special pass-throughs have been created for wildlife, while unobtrusive fencing keeps them safe from passing trains. And how does this new system affect the roads that cross its path? Actually, not at all. There are no automobile crossings anywhere along the train's route. Roads over or under the tracks keep automobile traffic moving smoothly, and racetracks allow for undisturbed boat traffic along Florida's waterways.
Hi, I'm Mike. Are you someone's grandma and grandpa?
Yes, we are. And there are 6 other someones waiting for us in Orlando.
My grandpa's waiting for me at the station.
But while the Fox prides itself on its quiet presence, its impact on Florida's economy has been anything but. Construction of the system in the late 1990s and the first few years of the 21st century created thousands of new jobs for Floridians. When the system started running, additional jobs were created.
on the trains, in the stations, and in the construction of intermodal transportation systems that link the Florida Overland Express to airports, seaports, and most important, to the homes and businesses of Floridians everywhere.
これ上に上げてくれる？
はい。
ありがとう。
Hi, is this your first time on a train?
ごめんね、私英語喋らないから。
Yeah, it's my first time
あ
too.
りがとうございましたと思うけど。
Hi.
And then there are the tourists. Not only has a high-speed rail system enabled more tourists than ever to see more of Florida than ever, it has become a tourist attraction in itself. If Florida's high-speed rail system had been built without negative impact on the state's sensitive environment, that in itself would have been an accomplishment. But its positive impact has been undeniable. As an attractive alternative to auto travel, the system has helped improve Florida's air quality and lessen the need for highway construction. A new levee was built along the edge of the Everglades to help the Water Management District fulfill its mandate to protect the fragile environment. The levee was able to accommodate the tracks, and the benefits continue to grow. Water management groups were able to maintain freshwater within the delicate ecosystem and keep saltwater from leaching into the glades. The levee also slowed the encroachment of runaway development and served as the perfect platform for the longest new bike path in North America, the Eastern Everglades Bikeway, nearly 60 miles long from Miami to West Palm Beach. The arrival of the Fox created even greater awareness of the Everglades by exposing its grandeur to millions of awestruck passengers. Suddenly, the Glades were everyone's concern. The Fox was a perfect match for the environment. Clean, swift, and remarkably quiet.
Do you know why this train is so quiet?
I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah, sure. It's because
It's the continuous welded rail.
Tickets, please.
Oh, yeah. Here you go. Here you go.
10 years ago, a high-speed rail system for the state of Florida was just a dream. In other parts of the world, the system was a reality. France had one, England and Belgium had one, and Korea's was already underway. Germany had one, and so did Japan. Spain, Sweden, Norway, and the Netherlands were also reaping the many benefits of high-speed trains. Today, Florida alone among the 50 states enjoys the Florida Overland Express. And you have every right to ask, who paid for this transportation miracle? Who made the investment of billions of dollars in Florida's future? It was a unique partnership of private and public investors. The Florida Department of Transportation treated the proposed high-speed rail system much like a highway project, except that private investors would bear much of the financial responsibility. Private sector expertise brought FDOT's vision to life by designing, financing, building, and continuing to operate the Florida Overland Express.
And I believe we are live. Hello everyone, welcome aboard and welcome to the American Rail Club live stream. It's been a bit, because I wasn't feeling too well the last week. We had a bit of a break, so we're on here. We're on. Hello everyone. Just let me know if you all can hear me. Hey Darius, how you doing, bro? Hello Osman. Hello Adam. Hello Michael. Hello Jeanette. Hello Ved. Auto Tech Xbox. And we have Ruben on with us today, and we're trying this new thing over on our Discord server. We're trying this stage here so everybody can also hear us and we can bring people up and back on stage. I'm assuming that's how it works, but we got a couple things to talk about tonight because, well, it's summer. It is summertime. So we are talking a lot about some of the advances that have been going on in not only transportation technology, but there have been some delays and some pushback on rail. Now, there has been some good things that have been going, including the new budgets that have been pushed through Congress, or about to be pushed through Congress. So let's see. This could really help out the country if it goes in the right way, because we talked about this before when it comes to infrastructure. Not everything is infrastructure. If we start spending money on everything, including, giving our favorite generation everything and more, then we're not going to really push actual infrastructure projects and actual construction for physical infrastructure. And we're talking about physical infrastructure that moves people and goods. That's what infrastructure is. So we're going to get started on this. And yeah, I know we have the video on there, the little pre-stream video about the FOX, the Florida Overland Express, which was a public-private project partnership within the 90s. It was a P3 project. So we have a video of that on our channel. So go ahead and check that out if you want. And you can really see a little bit more about that information. Funny thing, before we start, I got these socks from Holly as just like, a joke. I think this was from a Simpsons episode. I think it was the one with Lisa and what's his name, Ralph Wiggum or something like that. I don't know. I used to watch The Simpsons when I was a kid a lot. But let's get started on this because this is gonna be interesting. So, California has been having issues. Yes, we know California has been having issues. Is there anything ever different, Ruben, with California at this point?
I mean, it's my favorite soap series of the U.S. Like, each month, each week, there's something new happening. It's like every week is a new season, so
yeah.
It's always something interesting to read or to hear about.
Yeah, and if you guys have any other suggestions for stories that we're going to cover, we have plenty of stories that we're going to cover. We're trying to make these shows shorter, but we're trying to also bring more involvement and also more information, so let us know. But yeah, California has been having a rough time, so grab out your alcohol because it's about to get rough. And speaking of alcohol, I'm going to be trying this St. Elmo Steakhouse Cola cocktail. For any of you guys not familiar with St. Elmo Steakhouse, it's a nationwide known steakhouse that's here based in Indianapolis. And it's a very good steakhouse. They're very well known for the shrimp cocktail. So I'm gonna try this out. This is different. It's not a beer this time.
Oh, now you're being fancy.
Yeah, it's straight bourbon whiskey with cherry, vanilla beans, cola, and caramel color. So we're gonna need something strong for this because it's California. Here we go.
I mean, you
dang, this is good.
Steakhouse in Indiana.
Yeah, I'm a big bourbon fan, so this is good. Alrighty. So, California high-speed rail is at risk. In the last few days, budget committees in California Assembly and Senate voted to defer without prejudice. Defer without prejudice, if you guys can kind of see this over here. We'll send you a link to this. So anybody who is in California, please get involved with this. So we can get California high-speed rail back on the budget. So when they mean defer without prejudice, they're basically stopping any more further funding for the project. And what will that mean? It will mean basically the project stops or pauses for a bit until they go ahead and reapprove a new budget. So without further action, construction on nation's first high-speed line will stop. And yes, it is technically the first high-speed line in construction. Not the first one completed. It probably won't be at this point, but hey, it's the reality of what's going on. And we'll talk a little bit more about this because I brought this up before. Japan in 1959 started their Shinkansen project. They had to do the R&D on the project, the research and development, the construction, the operation for a project that has never been done before. And they got that all done within 5 years. California has been building this in modern day. Okay, so we're not talking about post-war, starving Japan in 1959, which they weren't that badly starving, but they were in pretty rough shape in 1959. So you're telling me that California, which all it touts to be, as being, oh yeah, we're the largest economy in the United States, and we have like larger economies than some countries, and we're like the 5th largest economy or something like that, right? They tout all this, but they cannot beat Japan in 1959, post-war Japan, in building a high-speed rail project. I find that very hard to believe. So there's something wrong with that. Very wrong. So what you can do, if you are living in California, I do suggest you do this. Go ahead and check out hsrail.org, the High Speed Rail Alliance, and go ahead and get your phone number for your assembly member, your senator, your state representative, and asked them to make sure they can propose the new $11 billion budget for railroads, including additional funding for the LA Olympics, passenger rail projects through the state, and the whole 9 yards. It needs to be done. It needs to be done quick. So I'll go ahead and put this link in the comments so you guys can go ahead and sign that up. But that's not the only thing that's going on in California. Caltrain Electrification has been delayed to 2024. It hasn't been good news, guys, in California. I'm going to be honest. Again, we wish the best for California. We want the best news out of California, but we're just telling you guys the news. Now, of course, we're giving you guys solutions as well. We've done this before, and we've shown people how you can get involved in your state. We did that in the last stream. And I apologize, guys, for not putting in more effort in getting out the regular video content on. So it's been a major problem for me, and I'm trying to get that back on the saddle with that. Okay, so hopefully we'll get a video out on how you can be able to go ahead and get involved in your state. It is a lot easier now than ever before because of COVID restrictions. There's no need to go and drive to a meeting area, to a high school conference room, or to your local Department of Transportation meeting. You can just go online, go on Zoom. You can, be there in your underwear and talk about, hey, we need more trains in this state, so I can, not be in my underwear in public. So that's what we're trying to do, guys. That's the reality of it. But yeah, here we are, 2-year delay, and there's more delays coming on, so don't worry. We're going to get through all the bad news here first, and then we'll go into some good news. And if you guys have any good news to share, please, by all means, go ahead.
We want some good news as well, please.
Yeah. Well, we've had our share of good news everywhere. So I mean, bad streams here and there. Well, not bad streams. It's always a good stream here, but bad news here and there. It's what it is. So Caltrain's transition from diesel locomotives to sleek electric trains will take 2 years longer than expected to finish, railroad officials announced on Tuesday. While its price tag is growing more than $300 million. I mean, this is a surprise because, in the United States, projects are more expensive than they're originally touted to be. Every project. And a lot of this is due to a tremendous amount of regulation and red tape in these projects. And insane amounts of consultants that were put onto these projects. A lot of this is slushing around money where it shouldn't be. It's a lot of waste of taxpayer funding, but hey, I mean, we've been spending a lot in this country as it is so far. So start enjoying that inflation. Gas isn't the only thing going up, and this is just the reality of things. So, this is why we push for these projects to be done in a quick, orderly, and efficient manner. Because if they're not, it looks bad for everywhere else. Now, the first electric train between San Jose and San Francisco are now projected to begin service in late 2024. Rather than sometime next year. Now, there is a silver lining in this. With COVID restrictions in California being some of the strictest, having it open sooner rather than later may not be the best route, and maybe waiting that out over in California to open up your project so it's not to a very, half-hearted fanfare instead of actually having a full range of people being there at the ribbon cutting and actually using the service weeks afterward would be a lot more, a lot better. All right, it's just the reality of things. And again, a key piece of Caltrain's ambitious plans for the coming decades, more trains will be able to run on the new system, which will help the railroad's push to reinvent itself from a commuter-centric line. Okay, so again, crews have experienced complications with signaling system that will manage crossing gates along the new line. The railroad wrote in a news release, COVID-19 has disrupted supply chains for key materials such as rebar and electrical components. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about this because this is a lot more important than a lot of people know about. The disruption in the supply chain. Because I have been very involved in supply chain management and in the transportation sector for a while, and I've worked in these sectors. It has been the worst we've ever seen it in a long time. And a lot of this isn't due to COVID. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on, Ruben, but I mean, I'm pretty sure similar things are happening over in Europe, correct?
Oh yeah, it's the just-in-time system is completely destroyed by now.
Yeah. I mean, let me see if I can bring up some of these articles from Freight Waves, because this is one news site I go ahead and follow. But let's go on to let's keep going on, and then we'll talk a little bit about this. There have been issues with the ground beneath the railroad's tracks, including underground utilities that don't match up with the planning documents. Then that's just, poor planning on California's part, right? That's nothing new. Another significant problem, delivery of Caltrain's new fleet of 133 electric train cars, which was set to be completed by August of next year, has now been pushed back to 2023. Train manufacturer Stadler, which is building a new fleet in Switzerland and Salt Lake City, has been slowed by COVID-19 infections among its workers, international travel restrictions, and problems with suppliers. Now, all of these things, the COVID-19 infections, the international travel restrictions, those aren't what's really making it stop. It's the problems with suppliers. That is really the big thing, okay? Because you got to understand, guys, it's not just you put in an engine and go. When I used to work at Cummins, and I was very involved with the QSK95, the Hedgehog engine that is in the Siemens Charger, the thing is that, and again, a lot of companies do this, okay? I think it's wrong, and I publicly said that to them, and, maybe that was part of the contention with that company. Again, I won't know. But the thing is, they'll go ahead and put in ECUs and a whole bunch of monitoring chips and software into the engine, and if these chips are not installed in the engine, they don't go. Now, the world has been suffering a silicon supply chain issue. There is not enough silicon to go around, okay? There's not enough, actual physical silicon to make the chips and whatnot. That's why people can't get PS5s and Xbox Series, X's and whatever, Series S, whatever ridiculous name Microsoft has decided to give the Xbox this time around. But this is the reality of things, is that when you don't have now one little chip to go into an engine, yeah, you can have the whole engine work, but you're going to have now, I mean, there are I don't know if you've seen this documentary, but there's a documentary of farmers now working on John Deeres. They have to hack their John Deeres in order to, their tractors, in order to get them to fix them up or anything like that. So we've put too much emphasis of trying to electrify things in not electrify things, but in connecting things to the Internet of Things and IoT. And now we have one little supply chain issue, and that's messing up everything. So that's I'm going to assume a reason for everything that's going on right now is this supply chain issue. So expect to see a little bit more of it, guys, because it's going to get bad. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but at least we're finally building on something to start building infrastructure here. And this is not just the only thing we need. We need to also start building here in this country and supplying here in this country, because if we're too dependent on other countries for having our supply chain, like what happened with a lot of Chinese products, what happened in Australia when they thought that all their toilet paper came over from China and they were freaking out, and the whole world freaked out about toilet paper. Okay, we're not having any more TP issues anymore, but this will certainly become much more of the norm as time goes on. Now, again, we have solutions. We just have to follow through with them. Well, it's not that we have to follow through with them, okay? There's not much that we can do as just, one person, but we can at least have our voice said. All right. I'll jump off my soapbox from there, but that's yeah. I mean, I kind of went on a tangent there. I wasn't thinking I was going to go on just now, but rereading that article again and seeing that it's mostly to do with supply chain issues. That's the reality of things.
It just happened to go on a tangent, but yeah, I mean, supply, it's perfect when it works perfect, but the moment there's something slightly going wrong, it completely collapses. That's the issue with modern management, and that's why I actually just stopped studying management studies, because it's just getting overly complicated.
Yeah.
Whilst, the major rule in engineering and business actually is to keep it simple, and just in time just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
so
just in time doesn't work. I like that one.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. This is gonna be the reality, guys. And like I've kept saying to you guys, everyone, start trying to get more self-sufficient. Start eating locally, growing locally, which that's nothing wrong with that. People used to do that all the time before, but this dependence on a global system of having, you know, products all over the place. When one domino falls, everything else falls apart. So that's why you need to have some separation and some fallbacks in order for this to keep going. Okay, so there's pros and cons to this system. Okay, but we're now starting to see a lot of the issues with it. Just the Hillbilly 777. Welcome to the 21st century, where the supply chain internationally intentionally is made of glass. Yeah, I wouldn't say maybe it's intentional, but if somebody was planning for something like this to happen, they're having a fantastic time. So more delays. This one is this one's kind of a kick in the gut, because we've all been hoping that this would happen, that we could finally get this year and have a little bit of some light. But the Avalia trains are going to be delayed to next year, unfortunately, everybody. And the reason why, again, has been the aging infrastructure in the Northeast Corridor. The Northeast Corridor is one of the most broken infrastructure corridors in the first world. I wouldn't say the entire planet, because there's a lot more infrastructure that's pretty terrible anywhere else in the world. I mean, there's some countries that used to be former British colonies that are still running former British rail, and including former British equipment. And they haven't fixed anything over that. We know some of the countries. You know who you are. But this is here in the United States. This is a first world country that we say, the United States, number one, and we can't even run 21st century technology, because we're running 19th century. We're running it on 19th century infrastructure. I mean, it's a testament to show how well this America has made their foray into passenger rail back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. It's lasted a long time. It was built to last, but not this long.
Thing is, this issue isn't new. Actually, it already happened in the 1960s and 1970s, because in the 1970s, I thought the metro liners were doing test runs, and they had to be limited because they easily could do around, what was the speed, around 150 miles an hour, and they had to be limited down to 110, 120 miles an hour, because they were tearing apart the Northeast Corridor. So this issue is already known since the 1960s, 1970s, so this is already an issue that's been known for over more than 50 years.
Yep.
Which kind of makes you think about priorities on spending and maintenance.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you think.
So here we are. The prototype trains began testing on the route between Washington and Boston last year, was incompatible with the corridor's track and its catenary system, the overhead wires that supply the train with electricity. The train had to be modified to work harmoniously with the infrastructure, according to Amtrak officials. Now, I'm not quite sure if it's the catenary, maybe the voltage system of the catenary, which would be pretty silly. Alstom has enough sense to know that we work on a different electrical system over here in the United States rather than in Europe. So I don't think it's that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but I mean, I don't think it's that. But I don't know. Maybe the pantograph is having issues keeping up with it. I mean, that could very well be an issue. I know when Germany was testing their ICEs over here, and the Swedish were testing their X2000s over here, they were having issues. They couldn't go too fast because the tracks were way too wobbly. There were these old tracks that they weren't straight enough. They could not go faster than maybe 50 miles an hour in some places because it was just so broken up. Yeah.
If I recall this right, this kind of reminds me of a file that happened in Belgium, because in Belgium we're also going to add tilting trains. The Asilia, they're also tilting trains. So what I thought the issue was that, when train tilts, they put excess force on the rails.
Yeah.
But also they get a more wider profile in turns. So what I assume is happening is that the train is actually getting a wider profile in turns, which it's not compatible with the overhead catenary, since it's not designed to have tilting trains.
Right.
So infrastructure, that means they have to reduce the tilt, And if you have to reduce tilt, that means they probably have to reduce speeds.
Right. That could very well be an issue. Yeah. And this goes on to say in the article. I mean, we already know about this, but I mean, the article has went ahead and said everything exactly what we said. The train will lose contact with the electrified catenary wire, and could not reach the optimal speed. He said, and he is Larry Bias, who oversees the rollout of new Acela trains at Amtrak. The modifications led to extra testing, extensive computer modeling, and simulation runs. Officials said the adjustments ultimately will improve how the train handles curves. So what you're saying is so the new Avelia trains, these are tilting trains. So very similar to the Japanese Shinkansens and the Talgo trains and a whole lot of other trains from Italy, the Pendolino technology that the Italians started. These trains will tilt in order to keep centripetal force at a steady pace, in order for the train to be able to corner better. So just like if you see NASCAR or if you saw the Indy 500 last weekend, that was a pretty good race last weekend. But if you see the corners in these racetracks are sort of banked, so the tires have enough grip in order to keep on there, whereas the car is not going to slip off the track. Okay, so that's a very basic physics concept to just understand. So trains work very much the same way. If you have a tilt, it won't cause much discomfort to your passengers, and the train can stay at speed while not falling off the track or anything. Anything disastrous, it won't happen. Because we're keeping centripetal force and centrifugal force at a balance. So that's really what's going on. So here we are. Yeah, again, but I said the track was basically designed in the 1800s. It's very curvy. It presents a bit more of a challenge on the track that this train runs on in Europe. Which again, the tracks in Europe, and you got to understand, Europe has been blasted to bits in both World Wars, right? And after World War II, Europe got rebuilt under the Marshall Plan and under a whole bunch of similar plans. The same thing happened with Japan, and they were able to go ahead and rebuild not only their old infrastructure, but also build up new infrastructure. Okay, now there's several reasons why in the United States we don't have newer infrastructure. We focused a lot more on trying to build interstates and building our highway and our airline capacity, and that hasn't panned out too well for us. Not at all. So now we're trying to go ahead and build out our high-speed rail capacity and our passenger rail capacity in general. And we're reaching problems with the past. Our past is coming up to bite us back in the rear end. So that's what's going on. If we're running on straighter track with a more modern infrastructure, it probably wouldn't have taken as long. So, and this is what I've said for the last several years, that Amtrak, if they need to focus on anything, it's not getting new equipment, so to say, not getting the new train sets or anything like that. It's more of straightening the curves in the Northeast Corridor, updating the Northeast Corridor to 21st century standards, that it would be able to have, a Shinkansen-like train to be able to run at full speed along there without any sort of issues. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. The thing is, on paper, now let's try a little bit of an example everyone can get. On paper, Penn Central would have been the most profitable and the fastest railroad company in the USA, but in reality, you know what happens. So that's the issue with Amtrak. You're having like this new, spanky, bright new train, Avelias that can go very fast, but the infrastructure says nope.
Yeah.
And that's a major issue. Like, you can have the spankiest, brand new train that can go 150, 180 miles an hour. But if your track is gonna say 100 miles an hour tops, it's gonna say 100 miles an hour tops. So
yeah. I mean, to be fair in that regard, Ruben, I completely understand that regard. The thing is that, Amtrak got the Avelias because, and we've mentioned this before, the old Acelas, which were built by Bombardier, Bombardier was not going to go ahead and keep these trains going. They said, we're done supplying, any more parts. We're going to be done with this contract. We're not going to be making any more trains or any more things for you guys. So go ahead and go find someone else to do it, because we're done. So that's why Amtrak needed to go ahead and get some new trains. And the Acelas were getting old. I mean, they're still cool and they're fun when you see them again and again, but they haven't been in well working condition for a good bit. Mostly due because parts are going to be unavailable because Bombardier is not going to supply them anymore. It's too expensive for them. Yeah, it's what happened to Concorde. Yeah. They weren't going to supply any more parts for it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with Bombardier, they don't even exist anymore. They're done.
Yeah.
They're actually done. They're dead. They're dead in the water. Bombardier Rail doesn't even exist anymore. It's all stone by now. But yeah, I mean, that's a good part of Amtrak. They actually look for new trains, but you know, if they want to bring the high-speed northeast rail corridor to high speed, they're gonna need to update infrastructure because you know this one little part in the article that says pantographs couldn't keep contact with the overhead catenary. That's actually a very weird thing to think about is that the train actually tilts. It does it perfectly, but the infrastructure can't follow the train, so they're gonna need to update the entire infrastructure, which is gonna cost money. So thing is, this train, of course, it costs in building it and maintaining it, but you also need to get the infrastructure to actually uphold the entire standard. So this is the entire story of, you know, train and infrastructure. It's infrastructure is such a big story. It's just more than having a fast train. It's actually having room and the space for a fast train.
Yeah. Oh, the fast trains are let's be honest. The fast trains are nice to look at. They're sexy and they make a great they make a great poster child for when we talk about infrastructure. Okay. Infrastructure is a lot more than just trains and roads and bridges. There's a lot more to do with the infrastructure you don't see, like pipelines, like sewer systems, waterways. That's all in the infrastructure of a country. Now, of course, we're lagging behind in most of all of that. But the face of our passenger rail system is going to be high-speed rail, because that has been the laughing stock of the United States in regards to the rest of the first world and other modern countries, is that we don't have a high-speed rail system, or a high-speed rail system that actually functions to a level that Japan, France, Germany, Spain, China. Okay, and again, China, look at where they were in 2008. They only had one high-speed rail line, and now they have more high-speed rail than the rest of the world combined and doubled. That's, you know, and it's insane. So while we've been talking about it, they've been building it. Now, of course, their political system is a lot different. And we're not going to get too much into that. But look, we used to build things here in this country. I mean, we were the countries that built, you know, a lot of people would call the 8th modern wonder of the world, which was the overseas railroad that connected Miami all the way to Key West. A 7-mile bridge with a train on it. Okay, in the aughts, okay, the 1900s. Okay, that was built, guys, in this country. And now we can barely get California built. Okay, but things may start panning out. Things may start panning out. All right, we're right spot on dot. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Let's go bring in somebody who is in our live stream stage. It's hello. So we're going to bring him on board and move him over here. So let me see if I can right click and invite to speak. Let's see. Here we go.
Hear me?
We can hear you. Hello.
Awesome. Good evening.
How you doing, man?
So I think that like you guys are definitely saying some interesting stuff about like all the various issues that we have.
We're spitting facts, man.
Yeah, but I will say that I kind of want to play devil's advocate and bring up some counter arguments for that.
All right.
Please.
Sort of going forwards from the very beginning, when you were discussing California, in regards to that actually, and specifically Caltrain, when talking about the infrastructure, the subterranean infrastructure, the main issue with that is because, I mean, they didn't specify what locations. I'd assume that these particular infrastructure, unless it was further south or like in between San Francisco and San Jose, certainly within the municipalities, it would basically, that kind of stuff was set up in like the 1850s by a bunch of people who didn't document anything. So obviously there would be significant issues, and in order for them to have properly surveyed it, they obviously would have shut down the line, which would have been completely possible with like COVID, or they could have terminated trains at Millbrae and told everybody, okay, change to BART at Millbrae. But obviously that financially was not an option because it would provide many more losses in terms of service revenue.
Again, and I'm not from California, so I wouldn't know the specifics of any of that. Well, I mean, it's not more that I don't live there. It's more that, maybe I haven't done the due diligence and research, but I'm glad you're at least filling in on that regard. But if there's some praying that can be done. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So let me jump over to the Avelia. So the basically north of Astoria in Queens in New York, the Northeast Corridor uses like modern electrification from the 90s.
Right.
Which is awesome because that part wasn't electrified previously, but anything south, that was all PRR territory.
Right.
And they use, like the sort of iconic double triangle supported catenary poles.
Yeah.
Those are definitely, like, if a catenary pole could be iconic, that would be it. But they don't have adjustable tensioning, and in order to increase the train speed, what you need to do is you need to increase catenary tension, because as the train goes along, the pantograph induces vibrations within the catenary.
Right, pushing that wire up, and then once the
PRR rigs don't have the damping, neither do they have the adjustability to increase the tension so that the vibration isn't there in the first place. And so
exactly,
so the pantograph jumping up and down and creating a standing wave, which will cause it to lose contact, and occasionally, if you're going fast enough, it will damage the catenary.
So let me see if I can show it for people online so we can see what we're talking about. Okay, so you got to understand, guys, that electrical lines, when we're talking about the catenary, it's not a straight line. You're not just taking your pantograph, which is your pantograph is this. You see this red thing over here on the Acela. That's what collects the electricity from there, and it takes it into the motors all the way down. But down and south on the PRR lines, they don't really have some sort of a tensioning system that when the pantograph pushes up on there, it will do that. And when the train is moving along, this is also bouncing. So now you're going to lose tension. It's going to arc, and you're going to, we're called arc, but it's going to be electrical arcing. So now you're going to have some issues with your electricity and your flow of electricity and power, and that's what's going to create the issues. So
and you also got to know that electricity, gets on your wires are not always straight. You're always zigzagging because a pantograph is a carbon-based surface.
Exactly.
So they need to zigzag because you also would have too much issues on one surface. You have to zigzag to get, to make sure that the pantograph doesn't. Get worse.
Because that friction will actually dig into the pantograph, where you're actually going to see it. Because it's like you're filing a knife or anything like that. It's gonna grind it down. So that's why modern pantographs zigzag back and forth, so there's even wear across the contact points.
Yeah. Although in Amtrak's defense, they've replaced a couple recently for the past few months at Prince stations along the Northeast Corridor in Jersey on Princeton Junction, which is the part they're upgrading for 300 or not 300. What am I saying? 160 mile an hour running.
Yeah.
260K. Basically, they've replaced track and replaced catenary in some places. So sort of multiple mile sections have tensioning, but some of them need to be replaced. And they were running local trains on the express tracks because the local tracks were due for upgrading. And then then the Avelia has been able to hit 160 on that section kind of comfortably.
Oh yeah, there's been videos,
That's without tilting, and once you add in the tilt, then a joke that I frequently make is that if Alstom had called it Pendolino instead of Tiltronics, it would have worked, which obviously isn't true. But the thing is that what they're doing is they're combining. They own the Pendolino technology, and they own the TGV sort of technology, but their main issue is combining your Jacobs bogies on what you normally see on a TGV, with that form of bogie tilt system, and the only people who have been successfully able to do that is Talgo, and that's basically just because Talgo has really lightweight bogies anyway, and their passenger cars are pretty light too.
Yeah, and
But-
the safety
yeah.
safety regulations are also different there because
Yeah.
the FRA has always been like whenever the Japanese have tried to bring the Shinkansen over here, the FRA like you have all these old boomer fogies who are like, well, is it gonna be able to survive a crash? You crash your Shinkansen into your CSX freight train. Is it going to be able to survive a crash? And that type of BS. It's like
the
that's
reason the Acela is so goddamn heavy is because they had to build it so that
exactly
if you hit a freight train head on, it wouldn't like just immediately collapse and
it's a lot of safety bloat onto there, which is what I've been calling it. It's safety bloat. And a lot of newer cars, a lot of the reasons why a lot of newer cars are bigger than they should be is because of all that safety bloat.
Yeah. But it's interesting though that the Caltrain Stedler Kisses, because there were some 2018 FRA slight rule rewrites in terms of safety regulations.
Yeah.
The Caltrain EMUs are only slightly modified to meet American safety regulations from the European standards because the FRA decided, okay, fine, like PTC, like Caltrain has proved that they can run PTC on their line.
Yeah, which is what you need. You need
Yeah.
some positive train control, automatic train control, in order to make sure it's called crash prevention, not crash survival. Okay, you don't want if you're talking about how are the passengers going to be able to mitigate this crash, and how is the train going to where are the crumple zones and all that. When you start getting into that, it's the wrong topic. You're saying, well, how can we avoid a crash in the first place, which is what Japan has done and everybody else has done.
You start out with how do we not have a crash, and then once you figure that out, as in like your automatic emergency braking systems, yada yada yada.
Bingo.
Then once you pass that, then you realize, if everything else breaks and we do have to have an impact, how do we make sure no one dies?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Lulu, can I actually add you because you said, can I talk about some things you had? Because if I find it very interesting, is that okay that I do that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay,
right.
because I know I'm European, and like, oh my god, my opinion is less worth. But the thing is, like, Amtrak is very interesting for me because I live in Belgium, but now I'm in Estonia. But in Belgium, every single transportation company is actually government owned. So I'm used to government agencies. Like everything around me is government agency. But the thing is with Amtrak, I don't hate Amtrak. I actually kind of like Amtrak because I have this very weak spot for Amtrak because my favorite books were all about Amtrak. Even when I was a kid, I would always look at these pages about American train travels with Amtrak. So I kind of love Amtrak. But yeah, I know Amtrak is in a very difficult spot when it comes to Northeast Corridor. Actually, when it comes to the entire network, they're in a very difficult spot because you have this in that identity cards. Like, what are they actually? But when it comes to that Northeast Corridor, you have this, as you said, you have this very iconical catenary on the south part of the Northeast Corridor, and they're gonna have to update it.
I apologize for interrupting, but we're running out of time here on the call because we're going we're at 10 minutes. I'm trying to keep all the calls to like 5 minutes.
Okay.
But again, thank you again. Hello. It's always a pleasure to have you on here because your expertise, at least with the California plan. Which we'll talk a little bit about this because there's an op-ed from Street Blogs I want to talk about. But your opinions and expertise on this is always very welcome.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I become a semi-regular guest on the California streams, don't be surprised.
We'll probably do something later on talking about California because now people are talking about how do we fix California, which was a video we came out with years ago, and now everybody's talking about how do we fix California? It's like we talked about this years ago, but we'll talk about it again because we have to get people. It's not about getting views or anything like that. It's all about telling people the truth. So that's what it is. But thank you again for coming on, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, Hulu, you're very great. Like, I really love when you give some input in the streams. I actually really love it. So if I can continue this talk off the stream, let me know because I really like your input. Like, you're really great about this.
Awesome.
You have a lot of knowledge.
All right, so thank you. I'm gonna head out. It was a pleasure to be on.
Thank you again, man.
You guys.
Take care.
Have a great evening.
You too. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and bring in one more caller onto here. And then we're going to talk a little bit about this this transportation bill, which a lot of people have been talking about. So we're going to invite I don't think I can see the whole thing over here. Whatchamacallit?
Dave Mitchell.
Well, David Mitchell wants to also come on. All right. Well, let's. Well, there's two people on here, but if David Mitchell wants to speak, we'll go ahead and bring him on. All right. Let's invite David on here.
Hey guys.
Hey, David. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just got off of work and a little pain.
I know.
Like my leg, I need to put an ice pack on it.
I know the feeling, man. I definitely know the feeling. Yeah. But how's it going? Anything on here that?
Pretty good. It's just stuff I need to bring up that's been going on, because this does affect me, because right now we're in a building material shortage crisis right now.
Yeah.
You heard about that?
Yes, that's exactly what we've been talking about, is all these shortages that have been going on in the United States, because that's been really affecting. And it's not just to do with because people say, oh, the Evergreen or the Evergiven in the Suez Canal, when that got stuck, that messed up the whole entire supply chain. The supply chain has been messed up, and I know somebody in the comment over here was talking about how Toyota created the sort of just-in-time system. I used to work for Toyota. All right, we had an issue.
See, I prefer Toyota. They're damn.
Oh yeah, no. When it comes to cars or any machinery in general, get a Toyota and you're done. All right, that's it. All right, but I want to talk about this because this is actually pretty important. Was that we actually had during one of the tsunamis that happened in Japan, we had a supplier for one small part that we had to put on our forklifts, and that whole entire facility was washed off. Like it was, 10 feet underwater. So it took.
That was over a decade ago.
No, this actually happened 2 years ago. Yeah, but it took a while for everything to come back aboard. We had to go ahead and outsource it to another factory that was in two other areas, like one in Vietnam and another one down in, I think, Seymour, Indiana, or something like that. But yeah, this is the issue with having just-in-time systems, is that when something messes up, the whole thing falls apart.
I know, like, I'm about to be getting a 40 by 12%, I'm planning to turn into a tiny house.
Oh, nice.
Well, and bad news is I might not get it until after January or by August, which is my birthday month. So I might not get it until the 25th of my birthday.
Oh, jeez. So, yeah, that's the thing. Lumber's been going up. I mean, like pallets of lumber. Yeah, metal's going up. Bolts and everything else. And prices of everything are going to go up, guys. And here's the thing, I know it's funny when Congress or the FBI says that, oh, we have a new face of terrorism. It's we're going to be hacked. We know what happened with the Continental Pipeline. I'm sorry for digging into this a little bit here, Mitchell. I'll give you more time, but
what's something I want to bring up.
Yeah.
Well, hell, we rely on pipeline and trucks. And look at our country. We're screwed up because we rely too much on the highway and pipelines,
Yeah.
And we need to try to put it stuff back on rail,
Yeah, well, there's some things we want to put on rail. I've spoken about this. Like, I really don't think we should be having oil on trains because, again, the main issue has to do with safety, and having it on pipelines is a lot more efficient. What happened with the Continental Pipeline was what got hacked. And when they say hacked, 70% of hacks happen because somebody inside the company messed up, they done goofed, and they clicked on an email which they shouldn't have, they gave somebody a password which they shouldn't have, and now they're able to get in the systems and make a whole entire mess about it, okay? It's not like in that Die Hard movie, Live Free, Die Hard, where you have Super Hacker Man is, he's going into the mainframe and he's gonna change everything up and he's gonna, blow up the entire, eastern corridor by, blocking all the blocking all the pipelines and shutting down the electrical grids. He's gonna shut it down. That's BS. That's BS. First of all, half the country is still either on Windows like 8 or Windows XP or something like that. Not everything is integrated as you think it is at all. I mean, heck, yeah.
That is true.
Half the factories that I've been into and seen, they work on, most of them work on one program. It's called Microsoft Excel. that's what they work on. Yeah, it's a fire sale. Yeah, it's that's BS. It doesn't we're not nowhere near that technology. Okay, you're not gonna have a whole bunch of computer nerds and the warlock in a cave, in his mom's basement, hacking the mainframe.
I know now. Here's something now. Like all it takes is someone to put a good amount of explosive, or to do it right to screw up the pipeline, and probably call like fire. Like a big fire.
Yeah.
Like if you gotta remember that train derailment back in 1989 that happened in California that damaged the pipeline and it exploded a week later after they started cleaning up the train derailment.
Yeah. There's a lot of terrible accidents like this, like the one that happened over in Canada. This happens. Let me see. Somebody else in here. I just wanted to bring this up. Hardy Hat said to us, "Hello, you silly humans. I applied for a conductor job this week, hoping for the best, and we're hoping for the best for you, man. Congratulations. We hope you get it."
Conductors, applause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here, saying like, what we need to put more lumber and metal on train. Like,
Yeah.
Thin it metal and lumber, we don't need to keep sending it by truck. We need to send it by train. It's much more efficient. It's much more easier. Like, heck, the trucking company, they don't have that many restrictions at the railroads. And you see all the bloody accidents caused with semi-trucks and all that,
Yeah, and look, the trucks have their place. But when it comes to long hauling, past, let's say, 800 miles or anything like that, that's when it starts to become more of a cost. Now, of course, freight rails and freight trucks are always going back and forth to try to bring more volume. Because they don't. It's all about trying to make at least you have to make a profit whether you're running a railroad line or a trucking company, right? So heck, it doesn't matter if you win a contract in order to go ahead and move product from point A to point B 1,000 miles away, even though CSX could do it. If you can be able to get in a lower bid and you win that bid, hey, that's a contract and that's money in your pocket, right? And that's I know, but I know it makes it makes in the end of the day, it makes no sense, right?
I know, because the lower bid can always be the crappy one, Heck, yeah. And the lower the bid, the more higher the chance of the person you paying for it is going to cut corner,
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to it. Yeah.
Like, we have so many crooked trucking companies. Like, here's something about Hawaii. Hawaii used to have a standard gauge railroad up until 1946, until it got destroyed by the April Fool's Day tsunami. Like, they had a standard gauge railroad on the Big Island.
Yeah.
That railroad is gone. And trucking company, they had a monopoly, and they were waiting for the right moment until something happened. And that tsunami was the thing that put it in the trucking company's favor. Like, they're a trucking monopoly in Hawaii. Like, literally. And most people don't realize that. They're even a bus monopoly.
Yeah, and Hawaii is different because, again, their geography and where they are located away from the rest of the United States. A lot of people don't really consider it, as part of the United States. They're kind of their own thing. I mean, yeah, they technically are. They're a state of the union, but, it's very hard to be connected to there. It's a lot more easier to connect to Alaska than it is to Hawaii. But yeah, I understand you when it comes to, crooked trucking companies. Like, look what happened to Celadon. And some other ones, and again, there's a need for truckers, okay? I have a brother-in-law that's a trucker too. We need truckers. The thing is, there also needs to be ways that we can be able to move equipment and products and people in more efficient manners. And what's going? Yeah.
My grandfather, he been an army tank commander, and he been a trucker. It was way before I was even born. He died when I was 1 year old.
Oh.
I know some stuff about him, like how he been a trucker, and he said driving trucks is scary, like the big truck.
Oh yeah.
He said that if he had a chance, he would have probably gone into railroading if he had a chance. Like, that's what he told my grandma when she was younger, you know? But
yeah.
It was long before I was even born.
Yeah. My condolences, man. But yeah, there's ways that we can get it, and of course there is some issues when it comes to freight railroads too. I mean, we've seen what's been going on with precision scheduled railroading, and how and that hasn't been very well for not just for the conductors and everybody, all the employees that have been working there. People don't.
On Hunter Harrison, man.
Yeah.
An awful person.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, look what they're doing with the equipment too. I mean, they're just scrapping out trains. If one's falling apart, they'll just find another part on another train and just slap it on there to just keep things moving along.
Tell me about it. Like, literally, if you watch some of my rail fanning video or train video, you can see some of the cars smoke, like smoking and feeling like rubber. And also, the other thing, there have been a few times that I caught cars wobbling back and forth so violently they could derail.
Yeah, it's an issue. And
I tried talking to my cousins who work for the railroad, and he said they don't even bother doing it anymore.
Yeah.
See, it's the problem with PSR. Like Hunter Harrison, I hope he burned in hell for what he did.
Oof, man.
Yeah, that's some fighting words there.
Because he really screwed our rail system,
Yeah, I mean, hey, that's the thing when you do everything for the name of profit. This is what happens, right? It cannot be just about profit alone. That's all we're saying, and I think anybody on the right and the left can agree with that. Well, I'm pretty sure more people on the right are starting to figure that out now. The left has figured it out, but the left likes to say it, but they never practice it. Let's be real about that.
Now, I guarantee the only Class 1 railroad that will probably survive this bull crap because of PSR would be BNSF.
Yeah.
They were probably the more likely ones to survive through it. CXX, Norfolk Southern, Union Pacific, Canadian Pacific, although our Class 1, I don't see it happening with them,
Yeah.
It would take a miracle for them to survive this, Give it another 20 years, we'll have new Class 1s, and we'll have Class 1s that are falling flag like Kansas City Southern,
Yeah. Yeah, it's where we're going to, and I think you're right there. I think it is going to get worse before it gets better, but hopefully we'll all still be around for it, and we'll be a little bit more in power by that time. So let's hope to that.
Being that there's a rumor that they're going to bring back Conrail, there is a rumor that Conrail might be brought back.
Oh boy, that's. I guess zombies are back in vogue now, right?
if that's true, then they're going to be some big changes because the government is sick and tired of the crookedness,
Yeah, it's what it is, man. All right, David. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man.
It's always fun. Absolutely. Take care.
Yep. Later, Ciao. Man. Have a nice night.
Take care.
You too, dude. You too.
Have a night.
Oops. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, as we've been saying, guys. There were some silver linings here and there, but it's gonna get worse before it gets better. And let's get rid of all let's get rid of some bad news out of the way. Let me see over here. Oh yeah, okay. Let's put in some good news, right? Let's put in some good news. But I mean, I want to talk just a little bit, about this later on. Ignore all the BS of Bloomberg trying to mess up your eyes over here. But again, the issue is that our generation, when it comes to millennials, we're not doing too well versus the boomers. And look, that's just the way it is. Okay, I don't have to keep repeating it over and over again. It's what it is. That it's just the way things have been. Okay, there's solutions that we can do to get out of this. Okay, and that's being more politically active. And sometimes, look, time is going to have to be on our side with this, because now boomers are starting to early retire, and a lot of them are doing pretty well on early retirement. A lot of them are not doing so well. Let's be honest. Not just because they're a boomer doesn't mean they're magically, rich, living in a McMansion, and they have a whole collection of golf clubs. But they're definitely the me generation. It's like that George Carlin. I don't know. George Carlin's my favorite comedian, but you guys got to see this. Look up on YouTube George Carlin on comedians. I can't put it here on the channel because the language. But he says there's one thing about boomers, and this is how you put it down. This is their motto: "Give it to me, it's mine. It's all mine." That's what they've been, right? So they've taken everything in advantage. They had the best markets available in the United States, and we've basically been left with a broken system. We can fix it. It's going to take time. But that's just the reality of things. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times, and bad times create strong men, and strong men have to create good times. So hopefully we're the strong men in that. I hope. So let's get there. Let's see. Checking the comments over here. Maybe a rail tunnel can work between Alaska and Russia. That could be possible. That is more than possible. Hawaii is actually occupied territory, but this isn't a popular opinion in the United States. Yeah, I wouldn't be too sad if Hawaii were to claim independence or anything like that. Nor would I be with California at this point. Bobby Johnson, Putin sent me here. Well, let him know when we're all Russian hackers and we can get our funding. Because I don't know, we haven't been getting anything. All right, so let's go on to something that may be good. Something that may be good. And again, most of Congress and the Senate and our president, they're all boomers, guys. Right. So maybe there's something.
All right, Chad, it's now time for politics.
Yeah, and it's the thing, we have to talk about politics here. And again, when we talk about politics, we're only sticking to transportation politics and anything that has to touch with infrastructure politics. Because look, politics is what it is. Okay, and I try not to get as political as I can be, because I am very political, and I do my best to lay off of it, right? And I try to be as fair and balanced as possible, because I know all of you guys are as go between a whole bunch of political spectrums, right? So here we go. The unveiling of the $547 billion transportation bill, a boost that highlights partisan divide. The 5-year bill calls for significantly increased funding for roads, transit, and rail. Okay, so just from the title and the subtitle alone, we can say, okay, maybe that's a good thing. But let's get into a little bit more. Okay, so Democrats in the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee unveiled a $547 billion transportation funding package Friday that would ramp up spending on rail and transit while encouraging states to repair existing roads rather than build new ones. And I think that's what we need to do. It's like, why are we building more roads when our roads are falling apart, the ones that we have here? Why don't we fix what we have? Okay? And make sure that those work first before we even start thinking about increasing the amount of roads that we have in this country. And we all know with induced demand, which by induced demand we mean that when you start increasing the amount of lanes on a highway or on a road, it actually creates more traffic and more congestion. Because you're just inducing more people to use cars. The biggest chunk of the bill is $343 billion for road and bridge construction. Okay, so we're talking about a good 60% of it, right, being used for roads. Now, again, it's a lot better than 90% of it, which usually happens, and then, rail gets a little bit of chunk change. But here we go, 109 billion for transit, which can be anything between buses and streetcars, and $95 billion for rail, including a tripling of funding to Amtrak. This Representative Peter A. DeFazio, the Democrat of Oregon, Oregon, whichever you want to say it, tomato, tomato, chairman of the committee, had said the proposed legislation embodies a core piece of President Biden's infrastructure plans, seizing this once-in-a-generation opportunity to move our transportation planning out of the 1950s and towards our clean energy future. Let's hope so, because usually these things never get passed, or they get passed and then the money goes nowhere. The bill underscores a partisan divide on transportation policy, with Democrats and Republicans at odds on the federal role of supporting transit to the extent to which transportation spending should be targeted at combating climate change. So, and this is the issue. I know equity has become the new buzzword. The thing is that we've been talking about, basically, what could be considered equity since the inception of this club. We want anybody and everybody in this country to be able to choose whichever form of transportation they want to that's efficient, and will be able to get them there, not being forced to take a plane or being forced to drive their car, if they have the ability between certain, point A and point B, if they're, major cities, that they can be able to take a modern rail system. That's what we're talking about in terms of equity, okay? And again, I don't care if somebody is, white, black, Asian, Latino, Hispanic, purple, yellow, whatever, right? If you're in this country, and you're an American, you should have access to this technology if everybody else in the world has access to it in their own countries. So that's what we want. So here we go. While the bill can expect a warm reception among House Democrats who passed a similar proposal last year, it does not represent the bipartisan compromise that a Senate committee advanced last week. So this is going to go into the problem. The Senate's going to push something else. The House is going to push something else. And by the time something starts to happen, 2022 is going to roll around. And then it's going to be very similar to what happened under Obama. Obama had 2 years to pass a lot. They didn't get much done. And then the 2010 came along. You had your midterm elections, and then all of a sudden the Republicans owned the House, and nothing was going to get done. So this could very well happen, and it most likely probably will. Either the Republicans will either get back the Senate or the House, and then we're right back to the same thing. Both parties squabbling and never getting anything done. Republicans on the House committee, meanwhile, introduced their own proposal last month that is mostly focused on increasing road spending. So one wants roads and the other wants, green equity or whatever. Again, they both want roads. I mean, 343 out of 547. That's a lot for roads. I don't know how much more money do you need for more roads, right? We spend a lot more on roads here in this country than anybody else in the world. Just like our education system, we spend more per capita per student, and our students are 20th in terms of the education, and our roads are a D-. So not doing too well in terms of efficiency there. So
can I do a centrist take?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna say this: centrist alarm.
I mean, what has been my take then? If you're doing the centrist take, what am I doing?
You're doing the right take.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I've been crapping on both parties, but that's all right.
Yeah. I mean, Democrats and Republicans are equally right and equally wrong.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, you should invest in roads just to maintain them and make them safer.
Yeah.
That's the right. But it's also wrong by going for equity and saying this this one paragraph if a state is better at fighting climate change, they should be more flexible in directing their funds. Come on, dude. Florida and North Dakota. Are you gonna compare them? That's kind of making things unfair.
Yeah.
In their own way.
Yeah.
So they're equally right and equally wrong. From a political point of view, a political strategical point of view, I would say just chop it up. Have Rail, roads, public transit, chop it up and get it done. Just don't get it one big package that you get your own like very sneaky built into it. Just chop it up and be honest. That's my centrist take on this entire thing.
Yeah, and that's that's the reality of it. When it comes to where's the funding going to go? All right, what do you prioritize? Okay, look, it would be fantastic sunshine and rainbows for, let's say, somewhere in the middle of out more Midwest, and we're talking about like we're talking about like North Dakota, South Dakota, where there's not that much of a population density. Yeah, it would be nice if they could have access to high-speed rail, but the reality is that we're gonna have to focus more on places like Chicago, like like Miami, like Orlando, like Los Angeles, not like New York and DC, Atlanta, Charlotte, other places that have high population densities that are near to other cities between 300 and 500 miles. That can be able to make this. So this is where we can be able to get this done. Some people are asking about the education system being more personalized, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not going to get into what can we do for education. Look, some people have suggested that maybe we should do homeschooling and stuff like that. It's there's ways of going about it, right? It's giving people a choice, right? That's what we want. Have people have the choice. And look, I think I agree with this. The highway system, how we've built our highway system, has completely done a lot of harm to black neighborhoods and historically black neighborhoods and a lot of neighborhoods in general, right? White or black, okay? Because you got to understand that a lot of these urban centers, especially in places like up in the Midwest, stuff like that, okay? Not all whites were equal either in the United States, okay? The Italians, the Polish, and a lot of the Germans weren't treated very well here in the United States either. That's just the reality of history, right? And a lot of them, grew up in very poor neighborhoods. Okay, so everybody who were minorities at that time, had their own, had their own BS to deal with. But I do believe what the highway system has done to a lot of urban areas has been absolutely terrifying. It's horrible. I was stuck in traffic, trying to go to church on Friday, and I was stuck in traffic, and on one side I see the city. I'm stuck on the highway. On the other side, it's what used to be a textile factory, and it's falling apart. There's broken windows, and the city just basically ends right there. So it puts a physical demarcation line in between where the cities start and end. And you can see where there used to be more houses, and there's more brownstones, and there's more people that used to probably live historically in this area of Indianapolis, and then it was completely cut off. This has happened in every city in the United States. You look at what happened before and after the highway, and it's been completely horrible. Now, there have been other factors as to why a lot of these, communities have been the way that they are. But the highways have played a terrible role in this. You look at Detroit before and after the highway. It is absolutely horrible what happened to Detroit after the highway, and this needs to be amended. And this is why we have rails, because rail is not a high impact sort of thing. Rail can go over and under, and it doesn't create a physical 6-lane demarcation mountain range between cities. It is pretty bad. So we have this $14.8 billion for earmarks, projects backed by individual members. That should be taken off. No. The practice was scrapped a decade ago, but has been revived by House leaders who argue that lawmakers understand the particular needs of their communities. No, that's not what you're there for. You're there to represent your community in helping out the entire country in general. If your community needs something, that's why your state has a Congress. That's the reason for that, so they can be able to focus on local issues. You're there in support of your state of issues that will be national. That's what you're there for. I don't know. Look, it's good that we're at least talking about infrastructure. Again, my worry is that it will be the same thing over and over again. But infrastructure gets talked about. It's fun, and there's a whole bunch of CG videos of, you know, high-speed rail across the country and all these, you know, cartoons of how it could be great and all. And then it ends up being nothing, or a drop in the bucket to Amtrak or something else. That's just where it is. Where's Amtrak Joe on this? Amtrak Joe did go ahead and come out, or at least the president's office came out with a plan. The issue with that plan was more than half the money was going to senior care, basically. That's not infrastructure. And they were saying it on the basis that, well, if we can get, you know, grandma and grandpa and mom and dad out of the home, then, you know, little Jimmy and little Jamie can go to work and they can be able to work on the railroad once they're out of the... No, that's not how it works. Little millennial Jim and millennial Jamie have not been able to work because their job pays them like garbage, and the same jobs that were available are not available anymore. There's a whole lot of issues and reasons for that, but I'm not going to get into it now.
I mean, there is a gold lining in all of this, like, you know, Amtrak Joe Biden, President of the United States of America, if you like it or not. Anyway, his worst characteristic is also his best characteristics. Like, he's a great politician. He's been in power for like how long? For 7 years. He knows writing on the wall. Like, he might not remember everything, but he knows when things are gonna get bad. So he's gonna try to cut a deal. So, you know, he's gonna try to get a deal done.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that something does get done, right? And by something, we mean something good. We don't mean something bad. Some of the comments over here. Let's see. Rail unites while freeways divide. Yeah. Look, there's pros and cons to highways, right? You know, because someone else here in the comments here, Juan Perez, highways are the best thing for me. I can get from point A to point B really quick, right? And look, when I've used the highway over here in Indiana, in Indianapolis, it's not as traffic laden as, let's say, Miami or, you know, places like Los Angeles or DC or anything like that. I can get from point A to point B pretty quickly, right? If it works right. The problem is that working well for everybody else, or could there be a better solution available, right? Because somebody who's, let's say, lives, you know, in a suburb that's 20 miles, you know, in another part of the urban area, you know, do they have to go ahead and take the highway back and forth to where they live to work in the city center every single day? Or could there be some sort of commuter train system that can get them there in and out, like we've seen in places like Tokyo? And again, Tokyo is a special... because it's the most dense and largest and most populous urban area on the planet. And B, look, it's 95% Japanese, so it's going to be a lot more on par with what they all want to do, and it's a different culture. Okay, let's be honest with that. Okay, the United States has a lot of different cultures, working in harmony. And sometimes working in disharmony, okay? But most of all, we've had a country that has worked, okay? And we can get it working. So look, we've had it. It's been done before. China called. They want the U.S. to be in debt. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Look, we're not just here alone, right? There's other countries that are also competing with us, right? And you know, you can say, oh, you know, we're not competing with anybody or anything like that. No, China wants to take global hegemony. You know, whether you think that's a good thing or bad thing, I guess depends whether you're American or Chinese, or, you know, that's just the reality. Someone's asking, we need to build dedicated road for bikers because bikers on roads causing drivers to go in, after accidents. Yeah, that's true. I believe it's look, bikers should be treated as pedestrians, so not vehicles. Every other country has gotten that right, except for here in the United States, that we think that, bikers should be, you know, in the same roads, and then, you know, they complain when, you know, somebody LARPing as, you know, like they're in the, like they're what's the road race, the one in France, the Tour de France, you know, they're LARPing like they're in the Tour de France, in their leotard, you know. When they work, you know, they work as a lawyer, you know, getting 6 figures a year. Come on, dude, get off of there.
You know, when it comes to bikes, like in Belgium, I ride my bike almost every day, like 60 kilometers, which is around like 40 miles or something like that, 35 miles.
Yeah.
And you know, bike lanes, they're good. They're like, you know, they take less space than a car, and they are more efficient than a car. So you know, let's embrace the bike. The bikes is
Yeah, look, I'm all for that. I just think the way that we've done bikes here in the United States have been wrong. Now there have been some like areas where I've seen like bike lanes done right. When I was still living in Columbus, Indiana, they made a big deal that they had a trail that was separated from the roadway that was a bike trail. That went in from the suburban area into more of the city area, which again it's a smaller city, about 60,000 people. But it makes sense to have that available. And you look in Japan, or you look in other countries, the bikes are on where people walk, and they have their own lane. Okay? They're not where the cars are. That's the difference here.
You know what the best parts about this bike? I can ride my bike to the train station, take the train to somewhere else, like 0 car usage.
Yeah.
But I still can have the freedom to like, hey, friend, can we pick up with a car? Like, it's so much choice. Like, that's what America is all about, having choice. And we should treat everything as like having choice. Also, look at this, a super chat. Wow, I've seen that in New Jersey.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah, Chester the Wolf Griffins. Yeah, let's talk about this, because I was just looking at this just now, and I think this is very, very well on point with what we're talking about. So, Chester the Wolf Griffin, thank you so much. He says, Amtrak cannot succeed because the airlines have been stealing money from the railway trust funds for years. The big four auto manufacturers don't allow Amtrak to grow another inch. They want you in cars. And to an extent, yes, that's very true. Now, I was reading an article here. This was like a couple months ago. But this was in an older car and drive. This is from April 2021. I gotta apologize because this fell on the floor, and when I leave the house, our dog Han Solo will get ticked off and start ripping things apart, and he came after this. But the article is still saved. So we're talking about the Chrysler Cole brand is coming. So if you were familiar with what happened, guys, to GM, the reason why we don't have Pontiac anymore is because, well, GM was overinflated with how many car brands they had, with how much they think they could sell cars. And they were getting a lot of money from the government. And after they fell apart and, they closed off a whole bunch of car brands, they got bailed out by the federal government. Barack Obama went ahead and went over there and he said that, he saved GM and gave them $50 billion. And now they're back to work. Now, GM never paid back the $50 billion in full. They have never paid back that amount of money to the United States people. Okay? Now, the airlines, last year, during the onset of the COVID crisis, did exactly the same thing. They held the country at gunpoint, like a Metal Gear Solid villain, and requested $50 billion, or else the airlines will have to lay off a whole bunch of employees. What did this country do? Give them $50 billion. What did the airlines do? Thank you for the money. We're laying off employees. It's ridiculous. Like James Bond villains, like the evilest villains of all of media couldn't do this. Dr. Evil couldn't do this. He'd be like, wait, they $50 billion. They're getting $50 billion and we're asking for $1 billion. The airlines, they got $50 billion, but this is crazy. So Chrysler now merged with Fiat and Peugeot and a whole bunch of companies. So now they're called Stellantis. But the problem is that they have too many brands, and half of those brands are about to fall apart because, well, the reality is people are mostly buying here in the United States. They're buying crossovers, if they're buying any vehicles at all. The automobile market has become super saturated. Okay? And what I said before earlier in this stream about the lack of supply in chips, for computer chips and, ECUs and all that type of good stuff, it's also affecting the automobile market. You can go ahead and go to a local auto dealership, and they're going to have several cars that are just out there for show. They have engines, they have the seats and everything else. They don't have chips. So they're just standing there, and they basically can't work. It's not like, older cars, which you can just go ahead and they got a carburetor and everything else, and they can run without a chip and whatnot, and you can, get it too. Now, past about 2008 and whatnot, cars cannot work without a working computer. I would buy. So Adam Boucher here. I would buy a Toyota or a Honda instead of an American automaker. Funny enough, they are American automakers. You go 30 miles west of here, of Indianapolis. There is a Honda manufacturing plant here that they make the CR-Vs and they make the Accords. And then a little bit north of here, we have a Toyota plant. Japanese cars are more American than American cars. I've been saying that. You want to buy American? Buy a Japanese car. buy a Camry. buy a Honda.
I mean, if you want an American car, buy a 1985 Chevrolet Caprice. That's the most American car you can ever get.
Yeah, with the 23-inch rims. You got to get that.
Yeah.
No, you got to bump it up to 34.
Some low riding quality.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So this is an interesting op-ed from Street Blogs. And Street Blogs is a pretty good place. But this is by Chris Jones. This came out on June 2nd, so like 3 days ago. Op-ed, high-speed rail needs an Olympic deadline. Okay? It's time to commit and finish California's high-speed rail project all the way from San Francisco to Los Angeles. All right? So let's go ahead and just go through the first paragraph and talk about this. It was called the Yume no Chotoku, the Super Express of Dreams. Yume means dreams. Chotoku is Super Express in Japanese. Okay, I know because I have a Japanese language certificate. Okay, yeah. Go into Denton College and I got some pieces of paper. When the Japanese launched their first high-speed rail line, completed just in time for the Tokyo Olympics in October 1964. Again, I talked about this. They started in 1959. They got it done 5 years later in 64. The Tokyo to Osaka line was built in stops and starts against fierce opposition beginning in the 1940s, but its champions declared it would be completed in time for the games. Not in the 1940s. The idea started coming about in the 1940s, but they didn't actually get to start on it until 59. President JFK delivered his famous moon speech just 2 years earlier, in 1962, committing the U.S. to landing on the moon before this decade is out. 6 years later, something previously thought impossible happened. Astronauts orbited the moon. A year after that, in 1969, they landed on it. We can't do good things anymore for some reason. When Japan committed to finishing its now famous bullet train and when JFK committed the U.S. to go to the moon, it's difficult to overstate how doubtful and challenging both projects were. Neither have ever been accomplished before. Okay, so you're getting the gist of this, okay? We've been able to do great things, and we need to be doing it again. All right, so this article goes in, and I'll go ahead and link it here for you guys to see it. In 2028, Los Angeles will be hosting the Olympic Games. Emulating the Japanese of 1964 and unveiling California's high-speed rail line against the backdrop of the Olympics would be a phenomenal achievement for both California and the United States, kickstarting its commitment to cleaner intercity mass transit for the 21st century. I think that's a very doable deadline. If, let's say, somebody came out and started, coming out of a steel toe boot and started kicking, the office people. That's really the problem. It's not the construction workers are going to do what they can be able to do. Okay, you need to get the higher ups and you need to get people in there, both in the California political sphere and within the authority, to kick this up into full gear. They could definitely do this. It's right now 2021. If they could implement this starting 2022. They have 6 years to go ahead and build a nearly, 500, 600 mile high-speed rail line between Los Angeles and San Francisco. That's very doable.
It is.
Yeah. Look at, again, post-war Japan. Okay? A lot of people were living in poverty in post-war Japan, and they were able to get that done. Okay? It became a pivoting point for them. And then look what happened to Japan. They flourished very much to the point that, they haven't been able to get back to where they were in the 1980s. I mean, Japan had a higher GDP per capita at one point in the 1980s than the United States. I mean, we all thought Japan was going to take over the world. And then, of course, their market crashed. They had the bubble crash in 89, and they haven't really been able to get back up. But they still have all the technology. They're still building new high-speed rail. Almost every other year, they're building a new line. or something. So, and here in the United States, we've been trying to get this done. And this is the problem, and a lot of people have talked about this, is that when we look at high-speed rail in California, they're building, the basis of the infrastructure, but this is what people are seeing. They're seeing this, or they're seeing, the viaducts, but they're not seeing actual railroads. They're not seeing actual, the real, this is the meat, but we need the potatoes and the sauce on top in order to get this done. Well, actually, no. This is more of the plate. This is the plate. Let me fix that analogy. This is the setting plate. Okay, the real meat is getting the rails and everything else on there, and then everything else in the furnishings are there, are the potatoes and the sauce.
Yeah. Can I use an analogy in this?
Sure. Since we're having fun with analogies here.
Okay, so everyone, first of all, I want you to salute your American flag. Like, raise your hand to your head and just salute the American flag right now, because I'm gonna give the most patriotic speech ever. Are you ready for this, Demetrius? I want to see you saluting that American flag.
Go ahead. Wait. I gotta put it up on. There we go. Oh, I mean, it's kind of a flag, but there we are.
Yeah.
We'll put that
right
there.
now, because in 1920s. Belgium had the first high-speed rail line in the world. You know how we got that first high-speed rail line in the world? Because we invited engineers from the Pennsylvania Railroads and New York Central, because we wanted it and we got it. And America, they got the first genuine high-speed rail lines in the 1930s, and 1950s kept on building. And the Transcontinental Railroad took 7 years.
Yeah.
So America has the power to build. They have the space, they have the power, they have the money, they can do it. Because let's be honest, the Olympic Games are more than just Olympic Games. They're showing what your country is worth. In 1980s, Soviet Union showed what it could do, so America now can show what to do. Like the California High-Speed Railroad, this thing, they can actually finish it. They just have to dedicate money and, more importantly, willpower to it, because in the past and the present, America has shown, like, if they have the willpower, they're actually gonna do it. They want to go to the moon, boom, they went to the moon. They want to go to Mars, boom, they went to Mars. They wanted the fastest high-speed train in the world, they got it done with that metro liner. They want the most luxurious railroad, they got it done with the Empire Builders. So America can actually do it. Los Angeles had best public transportation network in the world. The PCC streetcar is still used in Belgium. We built the last in the 1980s because it was such a good thing. Because America can do it, and I believe if America actually says, we're gonna do this, they're gonna do this. So for now, I want you to salute the American flag, because I believe USA has the power to do this.
Yeah, we got a little doxy here also saluting. So yeah, let's get some 07s on the comments there. We can do this, guys.
Yeah.
We can do this.
USA.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Buddy. Hi. All right. I don't think he's too comfortable here. Take him back. Thank you, hon. All right, and thank you, Ruben, for that. So let's get some Star Spangled Banner here. I probably should have brought that up while I was doing that. That would have been perfect. To clip that. Yeah, but that's the reality, guys. All right, we have the power to do that. Okay, if we can't do it, what does that say about the country? What does that say? And this is what this guy said over here. Look, and a half century later, after the moon landing, the U.S. can't do much before this decade is out. What does that say about its future as a world power? Okay, let us show the world that California and the United States are still home to innovation, ingenuity, and a can-do spirit. Use the Olympic deadline to demonstrate that the U.S. still has is still a country that gets things done. All right, and I agree. Look, it shows a lot that if we cannot get that done, there's something terribly wrong, right? And if we can't get that done, there's some hope. All right. Speaking of some hope, the dining cars are coming back, but only to a select few trains. That's something good. So yeah, that's something. It's not much in this article, but that's what's going on. But yeah, guys. Yeah, thank you. It is a cute doggy. Let me see. Let's look at the comments over here. There was a time you used to ride the train across the United States. Yes. Yeah, you still kind of can, but not as easy as you used to do before. Freedom in this country isn't given, it's built. Exactly. The PCC was the best streetcar ever. Make even something better. California and high-speed rail can get done. Let's do it. America can do better. Let's do better. Exactly. Yeah, if we want to build back better, we know the ways to do it. So that's what we got to do. All right, there's no callers here, so we'll go ahead and skip this, and we'll try to finish out at 10 o'clock over here. It is 9:31. Speaking of the airlines that we were talking about earlier, so everybody wants to talk about this because I do think this is important news to talk about, and we should be talking about this because it is having to do with infrastructure, and I am a fan of supersonic travel. I will say so. Holly went ahead and found they were having tickets for like a re-showing of Top Gear in the theaters, but like in like 7.1 surround sound and all that, you know, in super HD and all that stuff. And I've never seen Top Gun in that quality before. And it was such a big thing to me as a kid because the first job I ever wanted when I was a kid was to be a fighter pilot. You know, when you have like, you know, first jobs and like they ask you in kindergarten, it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? It's like, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a veterinarian. You know, what mine was, I want to be a fighter pilot. But so planes are still important to me, and I spent a lot of time. My dad used to work for Eastern Airlines for a long time, and I used to go ahead and see, you know, the airplanes, you know, and all the jets, you know, fly out of Miami International, and that was a big thing to me. So
you saw the TriStar?
Huh?
You saw the TriStar?
No, I didn't see the TriStar. No, I did see. I know. I'll tell you this. So, the last time I went to New York, we did go to the Intrepid, and we did get inside the Concorde. We got inside. There was the last flying Concorde that we got on. You know, that was built by Aerospatiale. Whatever, however you pronounce it, Spatial, whatever, however you say it in French. My French isn't that well. Asking about my Spanish. Yeah, whatever you just said there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the reality is the reason why they got rid of the Concorde was they could not provide any more parts. It was becoming prohibitively expensive. They couldn't keep working on that, and they said the project was done. Okay, and the project went on for a pretty long time before it was shut down in 2003. But we went in there, and it was pretty nice. I should put out, like, you know, some videos on there talking about the Concorde. I mean, what better time to do it than talking about, you know, about Boom Supersonic? But it seems United Airlines is going to buy 15 ultra-fast airplanes from a startup called Boom Supersonic. So the problem is with this is that Boom has not actually built a jet yet. It's very much like when companies like FedEx and some other companies have said they were going to buy the electric trucks or the hybrid electric trucks, some Nikola trucks, if you guys are familiar with that company. They're a competitor to the Tesla Semi. But they're coming, I think they're hydrogen or electric. I don't know. They keep changing it. But you know, companies will go ahead and say, yeah, we're pledging to buy, you know, this or this. It's more or less a press release, especially from a company that has not built the product. It's not to say that they cannot build supersonic jets, that it's impossible. No, of course it's very well possible. This is actually tech that's 50 years old, passenger supersonic travel. And the Soviets even had their own version. They had the Tupolev. So we can build it. That's not a big deal, and I do think that we should be having supersonic travel. That's not an issue. That should be a reality. If you can be able to take high speed, that's the high speed rail of air travel is supersonic travel. That's their version. And that's the reality of it. So Boom's first commercial supersonic jet, the Overture, has not been built or certified yet. It's targeting a start of passenger service in 2029. Everything wants to get built in 2029. You know, including this here, California. So 2029. I don't know what is with that year. It's like, does everything end in 2030 or something? I don't know. With a plane that can fly at Mach 1.7 and cut some flight times in half, that would mean a flight to New York to London that typically lasts 7 hours will only take 3.5 hours, which is about what the Concorde did. And here's the thing about these jets, guys, and like I've sat in the same seats that, you know, people like Mick Jagger and Queen Elizabeth sat on, like in the exact same seats on that Concorde. It is actually pretty tight. you think airlines are small now. These are pretty tight. Of course, they want to make these. They want to make airline seats tighter, like the CNN Travel article. These double-decker airplane cabin concepts could be the future of flying. So they'll be giving you. Well, I don't know if they even give you bug snacks on these because they won't even give you snacks on airlines, on some airlines, because they're they want to cut down on costs. So now you're basically either well, maybe they have a little bit more room, but they're trying to fit as many people as they can on airlines because that's been the way people have been going out because there's no other way to go around the country. It's just ridiculous. Look at this, dual level cabins. Now you gotta climb in and get in there and all that. I mean that's not that hard for like me or some other people, but this is ridiculous.
I mean, at this point, they're just making commercials for trains.
Yeah, the airlines have been the best salesmen for trains. Look at this guy's like climbing up into like, look at this. They got capsule hotels in the airplanes. That actually wouldn't be too bad, to be honest. That's more comfortable than sitting next to some dude that just went ahead and got like the big beef burrito while waiting to get on this airline. Some like 400-pound dude that corked down like 5 beef burritos and he's sitting next to you. It's going to be a very pleasant flight. But this look, it's a little bit better than what we have now. But I'm pretty sure. Look at these seats. They're like the same thin, inch thin seats, not even an inch thin. That's the problem. Speaking of other alternative technology, California is allowing GM-backed crews to transport passengers in driverless test vehicles. So why can't California build this? Is because they're focusing on a whole bunch of other BS too. What is going on in the airline industry? The airline industry just wants to make money at this point. You know how it is. Look what they did to themselves with their stock buybacks. That shouldn't be allowed.
I mean,
look at these comments.
It's just ridiculous at this point. Like, yeah, we should use every service, get more passengers, get more profit. Like, we both know it's a race to the bottom. Like, when it comes to Boeing 737 MAX, it's literally a race to the bottom. Like, it's gonna get worse. Like, people in chat and everyone's watching this on video on demand is only gonna get worse with airplanes. I like flying. I like my Boeing 767, but I'm genuinely afraid for the future of flying. Like, yeah, this has been the what they've been trying to push. Like this one came out like I think it was like a year or two ago. The standing airline seats, so they can put in more passengers in there. So now you're standing, basically standing or like sitting over, your seat for the whole entire flight. This is ridiculous. This is what the airlines have turned into. Is how can we fit our units, because they don't even see you as people anymore. They see you as units. How can we fit these units, these cockroaches with the money, into our sardine can in the sky? That's what they want. I mean, at this point, airliners should just make this billboard just make this billboard like, you mean nothing to us, take the train. Like, that should be the billboard, like, take the train.
Give me your money and don't get on the plane. That's what we want.
Like, no.
Smell the air. There you go. You want to? Here's your airplane. It's air on a plane of paper. There you go. You can smell the air, and you give them $300 and you don't even get a snack. There you go. Oh, and if you have luggage that's 51 pounds, they'll charge you double. Or it's ridiculous. Like when I went on Spirit Airlines, I mean the stewardess there were paying more attention to if somebody's bag was bigger, so they could charge them more rather than if they had a mask or whatever. It's ridiculous. It's how can this be safe in an accident? Well, not that you're going to be really going to survive an accident if a plane goes down. You're as good as better start saying your Hail Marys, because that's it, folks. Roll credits. But this is ridiculous. Airplanes, welcome to scum class. Oh man. Yeah, this would not be comfortable for a long flight. Airlines going medieval style. Medieval style torture. I'd rather be put in an Iron Maiden than this. I don't know. Maybe not. It's a tough choice now. When it's gotten to the point where it's a tough choice between the airlines and sitting in an Iron Maiden, I don't know. Airline profits are razor thin. You got to help our profits. Those poor starving airline CEOs. While they're collecting billions of dollars from us. On top of the ridiculous inflated costs of tickets that we paid. They'll go ahead and they'll still lay off their employees. It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, Demetrius, could you imagine if airlines would actually get billions of tax dollars and then actually invest all those tax dollars in their own stock?
Yeah.
So you just could artificially inflate your own wallet? Could you imagine that? Like, could you imagine that? Like, imagine if that was reality.
I wish I could just imagine that. Even though I probably wouldn't want to imagine that, that would be a nightmare scenario. Oh wait, we're living it.
It's reality, guys. It's actually reality.
Planes are becoming much like prisons holding cells. No, at least in prisons they feed you. They feed you in prisons. They want to keep you alive in prisons. Yeah, that is true. CEO pay is another story. We won't get into that, but yeah, that's another story. All right, 9:42. We have a couple more articles on here. Actually, let's talk about the driverless cars. Because we've talked about this, and I've driven Teslas extensively, and by extensively I would say from good around the cities and from one city to another on a highway. Okay, about as much as that I need to go ahead and test something. Okay, the Tesla is a good car. All right, I'll say it. It's a fun car. Okay, but is autopilot and autonomous vehicles, is that going to be the panacea to solve absolutely every problem that we have in terms of traffic and moving people along? The answer is no. A resounding no. It is great for helping out the auto industry. It's great for a lot of people who can barely drive anymore. I mean, look at the safety aids they're putting into cars. It's ridiculous. You have your blind spot monitor. You make sure that the car, you don't smack into the car in front of you, and all these monitors and stuff like that. I mean, people can barely drive in reverse without, smashing in and killing an entire, pet store of kittens anymore. That's how bad they are with driving, now. But, could driverless shuttles, and driverless cars work? But yes, but the problem is, in terms of capacity, in terms of what you're taking, look, and this is what it is, like this driverless shuttle, I think this is in San Francisco. You see the overhead catenaries over here for the streetcar system. Why are we going to have driverless cars when you can just invest in your streetcar system? Isn't that the same thing? Yeah. Why? And again, because people are going to say, well, what if it needs to get someplace where the streetcar can't get to? Well, then expand the streetcar network. Oh, but, then expand your bus network to work in conjunction with it. Oh, but this station should be a block away, and we need to have a station every single block. Then walk. It's not that hard. Every other country does it. Walking is part of the transit system. When I was in Tokyo, there was no need for a car. You could just you walk 2 blocks to your train station, you get to your train station, and then you walk a couple other blocks to your destination, or you transfer on to another train, and it's simple. And it cuts down on the decrease of cost of car ownership, because car ownership, and especially in this country, has gotten prohibitively expensive. It's starting to get prohibitively expensive to the point it's going to be like other countries, where you think that for let's say getting a $30,000 car here in this country should be a $12,000 car, but in Europe it's plus your value-added taxes and everything else and your regulation, that $30,000 car turns into a $50,000 car. We're very much getting into there.
Do you want me to add some shock value to this?
Sure.
Alright, you guys, you think your gas is cheap? Alright, imagine this. Imagine if your gas was $4 for a gallon. You would think that would be expensive? Well, you would be wrong, because in Europe, especially in Belgium, 4 gallon of gas would cost you around $5 to $6.
Oh, we're getting there.
So
We're
slowly getting
yeah,
there.
we're quickly getting there.
Slowly.
Last year, gas over here was getting close to less than $1 here, in a lot of places in the United States. And of course, this whole crisis of the Colonial Pipeline. Which, look, to be honest, what got hacked at Colonial Pipeline was their payment system. They were scared that they were not going to get paid for their gas and their oil, so they shut down the entire thing. Okay, they did not hack the oil pipelines and shut down the oil pipelines and hacked into the mainframe, lead hacker Russian style, while sipping, on vodka or something like that. No, they got into the payment system. They got into the payroll system, and the company was afraid they were not going to be able to make money off their gas. So they shut down the whole thing. That's what happened. And look, gas is just there are places where it's going to reach $5 if it won't. The entire United States will. It was less than $1 over here in the state of Indiana. We're approaching $3 now. It will keep getting more and more expensive. Let me see. Someone's asking. I thought Europe used diesel. Yeah, there's a lot more diesel over there in Europe than here in the United States. I mean, look, there's diesel here in the United States. There's a lot of diesel trucks here in the United States mostly. I mean, there you have your one or two, contrarians that want to use their diesel Volkswagen Jetta or their diesel Mercedes-Benz, but everybody just laughs at them here in the United States. It's like, this guy wants to be European here.
I mean, that's because if you want to know why we have more diesels in Europe, that's because the government built like a funny trick and was like, hey, we're gonna tax more gas, so we gotta buy diesel. And then when everyone bought diesel, we're like, hey, we're gonna tax more diesel because it was just like extra tax money. So we kind of got screwed over there. But we don't really care because we're gonna get taxed to hell if we it's around €1.80 for a liter of diesel, so that's what is it like? It's €6.50 for 1 gallon, which is like $8 or something like that for 1 gallon of diesel.
That's and with but the dollar's falling also too, because now Russia's getting off the petrodollar and they're getting off pegging their their stuff over to USD, so they're going onto the euro and onto the yuan.
It's monopoly money.
Darius over here is saying, we wonder why a third of Americans have pre-diabetes and health issues like asthma. Look, that's a lot of the problem is that, Americans are unhealthy for a number of reasons, mainly due that, the cities are not walkable and they just drive everywhere. It's terrible. All right. Someone's saying I would prefer a Hyundai Nexo Go Hydrogen. Now, hydrogen's a silly waste in my opinion, because basically all hydrogen fuel cells do is just convert hydrogen into electricity and then power an electric motor. Just skip the middleman and have an electric car. It's simple. I don't know why. Driving your scooter. Yeah, scooters are fun. The problem is when they start putting scooters all over the place, like these Lime scooters all over the cities, and they litter them like trash all over the place. That's an issue. Build a high-speed train in Mexico. Yeah, well, once we build a high-speed rail in America, and we'll start getting to there.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's first have that high-speed rail from New York to Chicago, and then let's talk about other stuff.
Yeah.
By the way, about hydrogen, can I share some interesting news?
Yeah.
So ABC Diesel, which is Anglo-Franco-Belge company, which is basically a Belgian company, they developed a diesel engine that can be easily converted to hydrogen that actually runs on hydrogen instead of diesel, and it has 85% less emission, but it's basically just a diesel engine fit for hydrogen.
That's interesting. All right, we actually have some people here in the live stream on the calls. Right. So let's go ahead and bring on somebody over here. So I see PRR GG1, so the Pennsylvania Railroad, GG1. We're going to talk to your train here. All right, let's invite him on board to speak first, and then we'll go to Ryan Rail, and then we'll call it for a night. So let's try to keep these to 5 minutes each, guys. Hello, you PRR, you're on board.
Hello?
We can hear you, loud and clear.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I kind of like the PRR GG ones.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those too. I love those.
Yeah. I actually saw one of them at the Illinois Railway Museum.
Oh, nice. Nice. Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, talking about the gas prices here in like the Chicago area, they're kind of expensive here. Like,
yeah,
I think I seen them like around $4 to $5. So the gas hike doesn't really affect me that much.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, if you're already used to ridiculously amounts of high price gas, yeah, it's not gonna do too much for you. But yeah, that's what we're seeing around the country. I remember when I've driven to Chicago a bunch of times, and we try to fill up before we even get anywhere near there. Yeah, it's just and the parking prices. The worst thing about Chicago, I've never I've been to New York so many times in my lifetime to go ahead and visit the family. The parking prices in Chicago are at least double and far worse than New York. And that's shocking because there's a little bit more space in Chicago than there is in New York. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Parking here in Chicago, like, there's too many places to park in Chicago. Like, there's like nowhere where you can like not pay or anything.
Yeah.
It's just a mess here.
Awesome, man. All right, so
I'm just lucky that the system. Yeah, I mean the transportation system in Chicago is like kind of decent here. Like we kind of got like a large commuter rail network for Metro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
just like a few things they could. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I really like Metro. Metro's great.
Yeah. Although I think there could be some improvements done.
Oh yeah.
I've noticed like you know the Metro Electric line, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I know it, but then Borg and etc.
Yeah, it's like the only electric line here. Yeah, I noticed that I've been on the line itself, going all the way down to it's University Park, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And like I see the corridor south of that, like it continues all the way on to Kankakee, which is where Amtrak serves it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking like we could like maybe like do an extension where like extend electrification down to Kankakee. It just seems more convenient and just I don't know, seems like a good opportunity.
Yeah, and when you have rail that's can go into suburban areas like that, and it's already carrying a lot of passengers, a lot of capacity, it does help a lot to go ahead and electrify it. And I know the Chicago area and Illinois has been at least moving forward on legislation to introduce not just high-speed rail but also improvements to Metro, which they are important. And our friends at High-Speed Rail Alliance, they're based over there in Chicago, so they've really been pushing that. I still have their mask over here, hsrail.org, and you guys can get these if you help them out a bit. Yeah, that's Chicago after New York City is probably the most important city that needs better access to more robust rail transportation. It's the reason why Chicago is known as America's second city. Mm-hmm. And apart from of course Los Angeles and San Francisco, which are two other cities.
Yeah. Also, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So, I don't know if you've been hearing about this. Like, you notice how Chicago's like a huge whole like metropolitan area spread out with like many railway lines like spreading out all over throughout the area.
Yeah.
What would you think like if there's like a whole rail network that connects like the outside of the Chicago area, like what would it be like a net, like connecting the outskirts of the city together?
Yeah, like the outside Chicagoland area. Yeah, that would definitely be useful, and getting everybody around like in a ring situation. Similar to what Tokyo has and some other cities have, where you have a periphery line and also lines going in and out of the city. That is pretty helpful. That'll be in terms of also connecting areas around not just Chicago, but also when there's more connection to Chicago. When more robust high-speed rail and other passenger rail lines go in and out of Chicago, it would also help people to get around the city far easier. And it serves as an example.
Yeah.
I know Metra, like in the early days, proposed what was called the Suburban Transit Access Route, or Star Line. That would run like in the outskirts of Chicago, connecting like I think it would go from like O'Hare along the I-90 corridor, and then it would go to like some old rail line. I think it was called the Elgin Joliet and Eastern line. It would go to Joliet, linking the whole suburbs.
Yeah.
And I know that what was his name? I think Webbio Transportation. He did like a Webbio on like a perimeter metro that like was sort of like that, but like went like on the outside of Chicago. I can try and link it to you on Discord.
Please do.
Yeah, sure thing.
Yeah. Also, I know that Chicago, I think the CTA tried to propose like what was called a circle line. So, like it would go from like somewhere around I think where the red line and brown line are to like where the pink line is. And so like it's kind of like a whole set of rings around the Chicago area.
Yeah.
Transit.
You don't want to put too many rings. Like having one ring is pretty good. You know, and again, there's somebody in the comments that's saying that, you know, low light rail goes that way. No, there are several that go that way. Probably the most used one in the entire planet is the Yamanote line in Japan, in Tokyo. It's literally a ring line that goes around Tokyo and connects around to around the majority of the city. So that works. Could you link to that server too? Yeah, I'll link to the Discord server, guys. I'll go ahead and do that too.
Yeah.
I think I've linked it a couple of times. It should be, if you check in the stream, look in the description below, and it will be there, guys. This should be there.
Yeah, guys, join the Discord. But DG1, you know, actually really like Chicago area because it's kind of European, but also really American as hell, which is pretty great. Because, you know, Chicago has this very great opportunity to have very great transit, like Metro, you know, it's already really great, but can even be better. Because I believe now they should actually expand electrification. Because, you know, I've been, and, you know, Demetrius, you know this, I've been in 2019, I've been in southern Wisconsin, you meet me up and O'Hare.
Yeah, that was a good time, yeah.
Yeah. So I've been on the Metro UP Northwest line, Pingree Road to O'Hare. Union Station. And, you know, I actually believe they should expand electrification because it would be only more beneficial. Yeah, I believe they should actually expand Metro to, like, your route you proposed, GG1, and which has also the Star route. Like, no, Chicago has more opportunities than I think they have. And I believe with better commuter rail, you have actually more GDP, and you can actually, you know, make sure, because Chicago is getting really expensive to live in. So if you have more suburbs or more other cities to live in, work in Chicago, actually everyone can win with it. So yeah, I believe, and also I believe Chicago should have back the streetcar network, because it feels like something is missing, and the streetcar is kind of the missing actor in Chicago. That's what I believe. I'm just European, but that's also I believe.
Yeah, I think the Chicago Surface Lines, I think was called back then, used to have like a whole streetcar network, and now like none of it kind of exists.
Yeah.
At least none that I've seen.
All right. Well, anyway, we're running out of time here, but I thank you for coming on board, GG1.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Of course. Thank you. All right. So our last caller for tonight will be Ryan Rail, and then we'll go ahead and give it a go ahead and conclude it for tonight. So Ryan Rail, you are on. Welcome aboard.
Hi guys, how are you?
Doing all right. How about you?
Doing pretty good. You know, it's been hot here, 90-degree weather. You know.
Yeah, it's summertime, man.
I was working down at the museum today, and it was just blistering. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
So, what were you talking about?
Oh yeah, there's a lot we've been talking about here, but I mean, hey, I mean, look, there's the good, there's the bad, there's the ugly, but all you know, the future is still looking bright. So you got to put on shades, even in the 90-degree weather, which is, you know, hey, it's what it calls for, right? It's summertime.
We're getting through it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I love the double-decker airline thing. That was an interesting concept.
Unironically love this thing, or you think it's actually cool? I mean, I won't judge you for it, but I mean.
No, I kind of think it's silly, mostly because you probably smell the person's farts who's ever sitting in front of you, walked in your face.
Yeah, true.
Just eye level with their butt.
Yeah, that guy over here sitting over here, and this guy over here who had, 5 burritos and, some other airline food that he paid, $20 for a sandwich is gonna, right there. Actually, I don't think there's any, oh yeah, there's no, there's no partition there.
No, and it's straight eye level. It's literally eye level. You're gonna, you're gonna be wearing a mask for a different reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and this time you better get, an actual gas mask. Which funny enough, they won't allow people to wear those like respirators or whatnot. It's like, oh, because then you'll breathe air out. It's like, so why is everybody else wearing a mask then? It's so they don't breathe in your air, right? I was like, that makes no sense.
Damn it. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
People, what was the other thing that you were talking about was the Shinkansen and how much, they took, what? How long did they take?
They took 5 years. They started construction in 59. That included the R&D. So they were doing the research and development as well. And I don't remember the exact figures, but I put this in a video. It costed about a quarter of what California's projection cost. And we're talking about, adjusted for inflation and everything. What the Japanese spent on their Shinkansen. And we're talking about, going through mountains, doing something that, nobody has ever done before. And it's a very alpine country over there, and of course the safety features, so it doesn't, in the case of an earthquake, that the trains will automatically stop. And again, this system has operated for more than 50 years, transported over 9 billion people. Again, some of those 9 billion people are repeat passengers, but 9 billion passengers, not one accident, not one person dead in operation. So, I mean, it's the safest place to be on the planet. Let's be honest. You're not gonna die on a Shinkansen. No one's gonna rob you, or you're not gonna die from a horrible accident on a Shinkansen.
I would love to see the airlines have that record.
Yeah. Oh, there was. I mean, even there's no. Well, there was one guy who was there's several people who went insane or tried to go postal on a Shinkansen, and it didn't work out too well. But it's Japan. The country is very safe in particular. Anyway, I mean, I've lived here in the United States all my life, and I've traveled to a whole bunch of places. I never felt in any place in my lifetime where I didn't have to watch my back the whole entire time. You could literally drop your wallet there, and there will be 5 people, handing you your wallet. It's what it is. But
I had my. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I had my. I had an old history teacher that told me even if you left your bike there overnight or something, left it out, unlocked and everything, it'll stay there, and it'll probably get a new coat of paint by the time you come back.
Yeah, they'll clean it up. They'll sew up your seat and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a whole different world over there. Yeah, but look, they were able to do this for a quarter of the cost that we were doing, and in 5 years, and they still have it. And that's again the major issue with this country. There's a lot to do in terms of red tape, regulation, and putting money where it shouldn't be. That's really a lot of the reasons why. I mean, look at in New York with the Q Avenue subway, $2 billion for 2 miles. It's the most expensive project per mile ever in human history. Per mile, it's insane.
It is. Even to I know streetcar networks. It's what, 4 to 5 billion just to. Or not million, excuse me, just to build a mile or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually very cheap. And places like in Europe, they spend easily, between 8 to around 15 million US dollars per mile. In places like France, while over here in the United States, we're spending upwards of 50, 100 million per mile. And the technology is even worse.
Oh yeah, we're not even modern. We're just adequate.
Yeah, or if we do we bring in something from Europe, and it'll be the exact same type of car. It'll be like an all-star, sort of car, street car, and it'll be brought over here, and we're spending a lot more per mile. And it makes no sense. It's the same technology. Why are we spending more?
Where is this extra money coming from?
Yeah.
We need to spend it, like,
Yeah, and again, a lot of it is either union kickbacks or being paying for consultants. 12 different consultants when you only need one or two good consultants. And there's a lot of other pork going in for projects, because they'll use it for half of it for beautification or something like that, which is code word for let's spend money in fixing up the roads next door or planting some trees, and we'll spend $1 million per tree. Or they'll find a way to spend $1 million per tree, and then you'll find out one of the city commissioners is a really great friend of this arborist. This is stuff that happens here in the United States. Very Banana Republic type stuff. I've seen it. I have lived through it. It's there.
It's
Depressing.
very depressing. Oh my god. What was the other thing I want to talk about? Oh, that West, or not West, what was it, the pod thing in San Francisco? What was that?
Here we are. Your GM, your cruise. That's what they're calling it, the cruise.
That's what it's called.
So if Ted Cruz visits California, if he goes on there, is Ted Cruz on the cruise?
I guess. But I love how you pointed out that the trolley line is right overhead.
Yeah, this is silly. There's no, it's a gimmick. This is just vaporware. Well, it's not vaporware in the sense that it doesn't exist. It's just more of a gimmick to go ahead and GM to find an excuse to sell more garbage. That's what they are. They are garbage. To go ahead and sell this off and make a profit off of it. Even in testing, they'll go ahead and it doesn't say what they're going to pay for this, because California will probably pay a pretty penny for these, and have them on there. Let me see. Microsoft is also investing in this. They're self-driving cars, yeah. That's what it is. And Microsoft's probably investing in it too, because it's they see dollars and cents. They see it's at the bottom over here. They're just gonna pump and dump it. And that's what all these companies do. You look at who owns most of these companies in terms of, you'll see the 5, 2 or 3, or your BlackRock, your Vanguards. That's the reality of what in American business. That's who really owns a lot of these companies. Yeah, they're trying to find ways to move money, make money, and keep on making money. While everybody else is starving.
So what is it exactly? It's just a drivable car or something?
It's a self-driving taxi. Futuristic looking electric self-driving taxi. That's what it is.
Reinvented the taxi.
Yes.
How brilliant are we?
Yep.
I'm just gonna shake my head on that one.
Yeah. And these are the silly ideas. I mean, like the Hyperloop and the boring tunnel that keep being pushed in so many cities and municipalities. I mean, look, back in my hometown of Miami, you have the mayor there, Francis Suarez, who's trying to be best buddies with Elon Musk. I mean, now he's saying Elon Musk did the world a favor by showing the world that Bitcoin has an issue. People lost millions of dollars and their savings because the troll lord wants to become an SEC criminal. So he's tweeting out up and down Bitcoin. And this guy in Miami, Mayor Suarez, wants him to go ahead and build a tunnel for Teslas to go back and forth between the mainland of downtown Miami and Miami Beach. Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's been proposals since the 1980s to build a train or a monorail or something to go across the Biscayne Bay. At least somewhere on like the MacArthur Causeway or something like that, and transport people back and forth. But this is the silliness. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, that's the issue. The Hyperloop and the Tesla Boring Company, which is basically the Boring Company, is all it is just your Tesla. It's a Tesla monorail or something like that. I don't know. It's silly.
It's a car that's sitting on a car.
Exactly. But all it could be. But the problem with all these projects is that they're very low capacity. So they're only fitting, 5 people in one Tesla. And, if COVID restrictions, maybe they'll have one person in a Tesla. So they'll just be sitting alone like this, going the entire way through, just sitting there. And they'll have the little light show, because, Musk wants to make it look like, it's like you're going through warp speed in Star Trek or something like that. I don't know, something silly like that. And then the Hyperloop is the same thing, a pod that can fit, and maybe at most, according to the Alpha document, somewhere between 20 and 30 people. And max capacity for the entire line, you can only move about 800 people per hour. One Shinkansen moves 1,000 people. That has a turnover time of 2 and 3 minutes. 1,000 people in one train every 2 to 3 minutes. You cannot beat that. You cannot beat that.
And we've tried the pod thing before. There is a place in one of the London airports, one of the many ones, that have pods that run between.
Oh yeah, I think Ruben, I think I think it's in Heathrow Airport, right? The one with yeah. The one where you go in there with the personal rapid transit thing that you just go ahead and you press the button and it will take you to some place. I mean, it's cool to see, but I mean, it'll get you, from the parking and whatnot. Yeah, but
we know it's failed. We know it doesn't actually work for what's intended.
Yeah.
And that a metro or some type of train would be more efficient. And
yeah.
We're still pushing for the same thing. Same concept.
Yeah, I've seen videos of that, and you'll have maybe one person at the station press the button, and then the little car will be there, and then they'll go in there, and then they'll drive, or it'll drive them, and then they go to their place where they park their car, and there's 5 other of these things just sitting there. So now you have to maintain all those vehicles instead of just one vehicle. You have to maintain all those vehicles. Now, of course, it's easier to go ahead and just take one off the lot and just go ahead and maintain it, but they're not moving as many passengers as they have to. And then when it comes to rush hour, now all those vehicles are going in and out. And look, it's doable. It can be done, but it cannot match the capacity of actual rail.
Not to mention, you have to, since they're rubber tire vehicles, you get
yeah.
more wear and tear.
Yeah, look, airports have had these things, these people movers, like the APM crystals, the Mitsubishi, crystal movers, that's been around for a while, but they're basically, a train but on rubber tires. They follow the same sort of, modus operandi. But it's a whole different thing. Would it rather be they're on steel rails or on a monorail or a maglev or something like that? Yeah, and Korea has in Incheon Airport, they have their maglev, and that's been working pretty well. And of course, Shanghai has their Pudong to Shanghai maglev that takes people from the airport and zips them at 250 miles an hour to the city center in Shanghai. So this technology's been around for in use for 20 years. It's here. We've had it. It was still pushing it. It's still new technology, but it's funny because we've been pushing this now. We'll be going close to 10 years in a couple of years or so. But it will still be new technology here, and people will look at this like, "Wow, this is something else. This is from a different planet." No, we've had this. This isn't actually new technology. We're playing catch up with the entire world.
Yeah. And we've already done the math. We know a train would have been better. We goofed up, and yet they look at it like it's still something new.
Absolutely, Ryan Rail. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, this was a good conversation. Thank you.
I love talking to you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Same here. Take care, man.
Enjoy your night, dude.
Thank you. See ya.
Take care. Yeah, that was a fun conversation. I like those. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching at 10:20 Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So, actually, no, I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on. It's 10:15. It is 10:15. That's actually a good time to go ahead and end this on. So, thank you all, everybody, for coming back on board on this wild ride on the American Rail Club. Yeah, it's true. We have the technology here. We can be able to do it. Ruben, any last thoughts you want to add into there?
Any last thoughts? Get Caltrain High Speed Rail done, be American as hell, and salute the flag, and like our Facebook page and join the Discord. That's what I have.
Exactly. So go ahead, everybody. If you're still on here, like this video so it helps us out in the algorithm. We will hopefully be back. I know I keep saying this. We will hopefully be back with a regular stream of regular videos, not just streaming, but regular videos, because I know a lot of people like those. So, some people like the stream, some people like the regular videos, more people like those. So, yeah. So we'll bring those back out again. And hopefully you all are having a great night, a safe night, and a wonderful night. God bless you all. Be safe. Thank you for riding, and good night. Take care.